Hello, I'm Ray, as if you didn't know by now. Ray's Rants.info is the website. Loads of you have liked the Isle of Wight. I can't believe it, my Isle of Wight video. Fantastic. I'm working on another one for Worthing, my hometown. Tricia, as we speak, is downtown taking photographs and videos, which is good because I don't like going downtown. I already have several videos from downtown that I made some time ago, so I'm going to put them all together and you'll have an insight into Worthing. Okay, the flag. Oh, by the way, the flag. People have said, newcomers have said, what's this flag business you're always on about? It's the Union flag on a pole out in the front garden there. A little bit of breeze from the west at the moment. 15 centigrade, 7 o'clock in the morning, 15 centigrade. It's been a really warm night. That's 59 Fahrenheit, of course. 94% humidity, 1008 millibars on the barometer. A little bit hazy, but a beautiful day, basically. It's going to be a nice day by the look of it. If you're wondering why Trisha's gone down the town at 7 in the morning, we're both up very early. Me, I'm awake at 4:30, sometimes 4 o'clock. Trish about 6 o'clock. And we like to get things done early. And going down the town at this sort of time, most of the shops aren't open. Basically, she's meeting her mum down there for coffee, as she does every week. And they have a mooch around. Most of the shops, I think, open at 8 o'clock. So I'm hoping she'll come back with some good photos and 1 or 2 video clips, which I can put together. I was looking through an old book the other day from the 1960s, and it was about housewives and how they should behave. You'll laugh, well, you may not laugh. Honestly, the 50s in particular, but this one's about the 60s. The things that went on. Let me just read a couple. I've made some notes here. It says here, have dinner ready for your husband. Plan ahead, even the night before, to have a delicious meal ready for him when he gets in from work. This is a way of letting him know that you have been thinking about him and are concerned about his needs. Right, okay, put your husband first. Most men are hungry when they come home, and the prospect of a good meal, especially his favourite dish, is part of the warm welcome needed. Right, I know what you're going to do. I can have emails about this, aren't I? Prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so that you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, and be fresh looking. He has just been with a lot of work-weary people. Doesn't matter what sort of day she's had, she's done the shopping, the housework, she's done all sorts of things, but that doesn't matter, it seems. Here's the next part. Be a little gay and a little more interesting for him. His boring day may need a lift, and one of your duties is to provide it. Duty. Goodness me. Clear away the clutter. Make the last trip through the main part of the house just before your husband arrives. Gather up school books, toys, paper, etc. And then run a dust cloth over the tables. Doesn't want to see any dust, does he? Over the cooler months of the year, you should prepare and light a fire for him to unwind by. Your husband will feel he has reached a haven of rest and order. And it will give you a lift too, I'm sure it will, having to make up the fire and run around dusting. After all, catering for his comfort will provide you with immense personal satisfaction. Is that true, ladies? All the ladies listening to this. Prepare the children. Take a few minutes to wash the children's hands and faces, comb their hair, if necessary, change their clothes. Change their clothes and comb their hair before your husband gets in. Things have certainly changed over the years, haven't they? Children are little treasures, and he would like to see them playing the part. Playing the part? How do they do that? Minimise all noise. At the time of his arrival, eliminate all noise of the washer, dryer, vacuum cleaner. Try to encourage the children to be quiet. Right, okay, shut up. How many times have I told you? Right, that's it. Get to your room. Encourage them to be quiet. How do you do that? Be happy to see him with a warm smile and show sincerity in your desire to please him. Listen to him. Listen to him? What about her day? You may have a dozen important things to tell him, but the moment of his arrival is not the time. Let him talk first. Listen to this bit here. Remember, his topics of conversation are more important than yours. Stone the crows. Make the evening his. Never complain if he comes home late or goes out to dinner or other places of entertainment without you. Oh, okay. I'm off down the pub, then I'm going out for a meal, and don't wait up. Try to make sure your home is a place of peace, order and tranquility, where your husband can renew himself in body and spirit. What do you think of this? It's incredible, isn't it? Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. Now, this isn't just one article, one thing in a book. I remember a lot of books like this. I remember women's magazines back in the old days, in the 50s in particular, how to behave as a housewife. It was your duty. It was your duty to do all sorts of things. It's amazing, isn't it? I've always said to Tricia that I don't own her. You know, she's not my property as it used to be back then. A wife was, in many ways, the man's property. I've always said to Tricia over all the years we've been together, it's not your job to wash and iron my shirts. It's not your job to make dinner for me. And I'm grateful that she does. And I always thank her. Every meal we have, I say, thank you, that was nice. It's not my job to do the garden. It's just that we work together. We are individuals, even though we're man and wife, husband and wife. We're still individual people. We don't own each other. And that works. Well, it's worked for us anyway. I had a book some time ago, going back to the 70s. This was a book that was written, I believe, in the 30s or 40s, maybe earlier, maybe the 20s. And it was about bringing up children. Now, if you have a son, a teenage son, and he starts, I forget the wording, but if he starts to get a little bit frisky and might want to do things that aren't acceptable, send him out into the garden to chop up wood. I'm not sure what all that means, but if he takes an interest in girls in his early teens, get him to do jobs in the garden, keep him busy physically, to take his mind off it. It was all about families, children, husband and wife. And of course, in that book then, it was all about the wife had to be the housewife, had to do as she was told, mustn't question your husband. And of course, this goes back to Victorian times, doesn't it, where the husband, the man of the house, he owned the house, he owned the wife, he owned everything. And the wife was not much more than a slave, really. He'd get in, have his dinner, then say, I'm going out. And he'd stay out all night. And she wasn't allowed to question him. That would be dreadful. You imagine staying out all night these days. In the morning you get home. Where have you been? You get the rolling pin over your head. Where have you been? What have you been up to? It's not funny. Thankfully, it's all changed these days. Mind you, there are one or two men, I've known one or two men over the years, treat their wives like slaves, complain if the dinner isn't right, chuck the plate of dinner across the room. I'm not eating that rubbish. I do know one or two men like that. There was a chap I knew, he'd finish work 6 o'clock every evening, straight into the pub, not go home till 8 or 9. And one evening, his wife came in with his plate of dinner and put it on his head, came up behind him and put the plate of dinner on his head. Of course, there's all the gravy and that running down his face. The whole pub went quiet. We're all looking at this and, oh, goodness me. And she said, as she was walking away, go home tonight whenever you want. I don't mind what time you get in. Stay out all night if you want. I won't be there anymore. She'd packed her cases. The next time I saw him, he said that he'd gone home. He'd gone home straight away, left the pub. Mind you, he finished his beer first and left the pub. And she left him. She'd packed everything. She'd gone. She never did go back. That is a bit cheeky, isn't it? You hear about someone at the pub, yeah, I'll be back by 7 or whatever, and they're late. And the wife says, oh, well, your dinner's in the bin or it's cold. You'll have to put it in the oven or microwave. But every single night he got into that pub at 6 when he finished work. I think she started to make his dinner a bit later, sort of 7, 8 o'clock. But when he wasn't getting home till 9, and it was every night, she'd had enough. So that was the end of that. That was the end of that marriage. Another thing that Trish and I do that seems to work, no mind games. When we got together and got married, we both agreed, no mind games. You know, this business where you might say, you all right? Yes. You sure you're okay? Yes. I'm fine. Obviously you're not fine. You know, so that's what I call mind games. It's pathetic, isn't it? You might do that at school in the playground, but to do that when you're an adult, when you're married adult, you know, it's crazy. Would you like a cup of tea? No. I can make some coffee. No, thank you. Is everything okay? Yes. Oh dear, what a funny old life it is, isn't it? Happy days, or unhappy days in some cases. Another thing is sulking. I knew a chap who sulked. He could sulk for England. Honestly, he did. He wouldn't speak to people for days on end. I've never understood sulking. What is it trying to do? Is it trying to say, look at poor me or something? I don't know. We avoid all that nonsense. If I've done something wrong or Trish isn't happy about something, she'll tell me. And then I'll sulk. No, of course I won't. And I'll tell her. If she's doing something that I don't think she should, I shall say. I won't be rude. I'll say, do you think that's a good idea, really? And she'll say, yes, shut up. Going back to this business about the 60s, this is quite fitting, actually. Don't greet him with complaints and problems. Don't complain if he's late home for dinner, or even if he stays out all night. Count this as minor compared to what he might have gone through that day. Make him comfortable. Have him lean back in a comfortable chair, or have him lie down in the bedroom. Have a cool or warm drink ready for him. Arrange his pillow and offer to take off his shoes. Speak in a low and soothing, pleasant voice. Don't ask him questions about his actions or question his judgment or integrity. Remember, he is... Oh, look at this. Remember, he is the master of the house, and as such will always exercise his will with fairness and truthfulness. You have no right to question him. So he is the boss, he is in charge, you do exactly what you're told, you are basically a slave, and you dare not question him. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. But that's how things were. You know, back in the early days, that's exactly how things were. Imagine if I stayed out all night and Tricia dare not question me or my integrity. Oh, stone the crows. I don't know how... Yes, I do know how marriages lasted back then. Because the man owned the house, the furniture, everything was his. If you didn't like it, if the lady didn't like it, well, you either lump it or leave. And if you left, you had nothing. You could go off, you wouldn't have a penny. He didn't have to pay you sort of maintenance or anything like that. And it was his house, so you don't get any part of that. So, of course, people stayed together. Wives stayed with their husbands, regardless. And I know, I'm not going to mention names, but I do know a few people like that. Awful marriage, dreadful marriage, but the wife stayed with the husband because what else could she do? Where could she go? No money, what could she do? Things, thankfully, as I said, are very different today. Having said that, in some ways, even today, women are oppressed, aren't they? Won't go into all that, but there's not always the equality that should be there. Anyway, we'll move on from that. Do you remember stink bombs? Quick change of subject. Do you remember stink bombs? Those little glass, what are they called, vials? Little glass bulb. And you sort of put it on the floor or wherever and you stamp on it and it stinks the place out. In a local nightclub, used to go there every Friday in my teens. One week someone rolled a stink bomb onto the dance floor and of course it got trodden on and the whole place stank. Dreadful it was, awful. And some people laughed and okay, the smell disappeared and a bit of fun. But it happened again another week and again and again. And it was becoming every week. And the manager one night of the club, there was subdued lighting in there and he put on all the main fluorescent lights and everyone stopped dancing. What's going on? Music stopped. He said, whoever is throwing the stink bombs onto the floor, if I find out who it is, I know several club managers and owners, you will be barred from all the clubs in the area. So we're all looking at each other. And he said, if any of you know who it is, I'll give you £10. Tell me who it is, I'll give you £10. £10 was a lot back then. This is the 60s. A lot of people's, well, my apprentice wages back then were what, £5 a week? For a 6-day week, £5. This is 2 weeks' wages. At some stage, I don't know whether it was that evening or whenever, but someone did go forward and say who it was. They got their tenner, apparently. This was just hearsay. I don't know whether it actually happened. But it stopped. There were no more stink bombs. And whoever it was banned from all the local clubs. It was awful. Do you remember those stink bombs? I don't know why I thought of that. They were dreadful, weren't they? We tried making them in chemistry at school. The chemistry chap, the science master, he was an idiot. Mind you, he thought we were all idiots. And he had to go off to the headmaster's thing for some reason or other, his office. And one of the kids said, I've got a chemistry set at home and I've been making stink bombs. I'll show you how to do it. So we're opening these glass cabinets on the walls, taking out chemicals. There was sulphuric acid in there, a bottle of sulphuric acid, would you believe? And that, is it magnesium stuff that you set fire to? And there's all this stuff in these cupboards. And there's us early teens lads, you know, all looking to have a bit of a laugh. Anyway, this lad showed us how to make stink bombs. He had all these chemicals out and made these stink bombs, not in glass vials, but in a little, what did he have it in? A little bottle or something like that. Or was it a test tube with a cork in the top? Probably something like that. And we cleared up. The science master came back and this lad poured some of this liquid onto the floor and the whole place, oh, what a stench. Of course, we're all creased up with laughter. The science chap went mad, the teacher. He went berserk. We all got thrown out of the class. I remember him saying, "Own up who did it." Of course, no one owned up. Well, we all did it, really. We were all part of it. We were all aiding and abetting the stink bomb manufacture. And we were all sent to the headmaster's office. The entire class, 40 kids. So we all go marching up to the corridor, knock on the headmaster's office. "Come." So we went in. 40 of us obviously didn't fit in his office. And he'd say, "Oh, what's going on? Get outside, get out to the corridor. What are you all doing?" And we're all shouting out, "Well, what's his name? Mr. Mountfield." Or was it Mountyfield? We called him Bombhead. Mr. Mountfield, I think it was, not Mountyfield. Anyway, we said, "Oh, Mr. Mountfield sent us here, sir." And we explained. Someone let off a stink bomb. And do you know what the headmaster did? He started sniggering. He thought it was funny. Not only that we let off a stink bomb, made a stink bomb, but all 40 of us had been sent to his office. Happy days. That was good fun. There were some good times at school. Mind you, the only good times at school were when we were bad. Now, Mr. Bombhead's car was out in the car park along with other teachers' cars. I think it was a Morris 1000. One of the kids got into his car. It was easy to get into cars then. Do you remember the quarter light window? A little triangular window just on the driver's and the passenger side. They were very easy to open. Someone got into the car by opening the quarter light window and with a bit of sellotape taped a proper stink bomb, a vial. Is it a vial? I must look it up in a minute. To one of the pedals. So, of course, old Bombhead got in the car after school, put his foot on whichever pedal it was and burst the glass thing. And, of course, his car was full of stink bomb stench. That was mentioned the following morning when we were all in assembly. The headmaster would get up and he'd tell people off, "We've had complaints from the girls' school. Do not hang around outside the girls' school gates. If you do, you'll get the cane." And we're all going, "Moo, moo, moo, moo." No one's taking any notice. We all hung around the girls' school gates after school. That's what boys did. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Cycle past and go home? And this morning he said, "Whoever put the stink bomb in Mr. Mountfield's car will be expelled." No one got expelled. I don't know why he came up with that. And of course we're all sniggering. "Oh, I'm going to admit to it. I'm going to own up to it. I want to get expelled. Then I won't have to go to school anymore." Of course we didn't do that. The culprit was never discovered. No one knew who it was. Well, one or two of us knew, but of course we weren't going to say anything. And that became a little bit of a trend. So in the end, teachers, when they got into their car after school, they're looking round. Are the pedals right? No stink bombs. Oh dear. It was hilarious. As I said, there were one or two good times at school. Kids were often getting sent to the headmaster's office. They'd done something bad and that's it. Go to the headmaster, rather like mothers. "You wait till your father gets home. When he gets home, there'll be trouble. Go and see the headmaster. There'll be trouble. You go and tell the headmaster what you've done." And the headmaster, you knock on his door. "Come. What have you done, boy?" "Oh, I did this, I did that, so I'm sorry." All right, okay, we'll go back to class. Nothing sort of happened, unless it was really serious. And in the end, the headmaster, I think, got so fed up with kids knocking on his door. "What have you done?" "All right, go back to your class, don't do it again." You'd knock on his door, and he'd say, "Come," and you go in there. "Not interested, go back to class." That's all he ever said in the end. "Not interested, go back to class." So, of course, we didn't even bother to knock on his door. He'd go back to class and the teacher would say, what did he say? What did the headmaster say?" "Oh, I got told off, sir." "Oh, good, yeah, do that again." The whole thing was a joke. I was also reading that book about the 1960s asking each other out. Well, girls didn't ask boys out, or very rarely. It was always up to the boy or the teenager to ask the girl out. And it was very different back then because in the 50s, there was a lot of etiquette. A girl, a young lady, young woman, you don't kiss the chap on the first night. Goodness me, you don't kiss him. That's saying dreadful things about yourself. You're a loose woman, Jezebel, and all this stuff. It's funny, isn't it, reading these old books about the past. There were things that the lady did and didn't do, a lot of do's and don'ts. If they went out anywhere, the boy or the lad, he had to pay. She didn't pay. You know, that's not etiquette. You don't get her to pay. Stone the crows. But of course, the 60s changed a lot of this with free love, as they called it. Girls were asking boys out, and they were more than kissing on their first date. And the parents, whose teenage years were sort of, 40s, 50s, a lot of them were shocked. Stunned they were. Stunned, I tell you. Flabbergasted. Their gasps were flabbered. You don't do that. You're their daughters. You don't do that. You don't do that sort of thing on a first date. Struth. I never did follow etiquette. Well, etiquette was falling apart in the 60s, I think. It was disappearing. As kids in the 50s, we'd finish the meal. Please may I leave the table. That was commonplace. Every kid said that. Please may I leave the table. Please may I get down. That disappeared. Being polite to people in the street. How do you do, Mrs. Smith? That's gone now. It's just more as you're passing. Hi, how you doing? Yeah, good, fine. All the etiquette has gone, hasn't it? Well, I don't know. I do miss that. But in the 60s, with this change, massive change, not only in music, because the 50s was rock and roll, wasn't it? And then in the 60s, along came still rock and roll, but totally different bands were experimenting. The Beatles, the Stones, Jimi Hendrix came along, of course, with totally different type of music. Everything changed in the 60s. TV, for example. In the 50s, TV was very, what's the word I can use? I don't know, it didn't come on to the evening and then it went off early. Wasn't on all night, of course, nothing in the day. The 60s came along and we had Top of the Pops, various other programmes which changed everything, changed people's outlooks on everything. And of course the older people, the parents and uncles and aunties and grandparents, they didn't like it. They frowned upon all this. I remember my grandfather, he called the Rolling Stones. Honestly, he said, oh, they're just scum. I love the Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger and Keith, they weren't scum, they were fantastic. Of course, there was all that with Marianne Faithfull, wasn't there? And in the News of the World, people reckon that was a set-up. They were all set up so the police raided the place. And anyway, you know all about that. I won't mention it here. As it's a family-type show, we won't go on about Marianne Faithfull. Of course, these days, meeting the opposite sex is very different, isn't it? You've got online stuff, and it's just so very different. Back then, where would you meet the opposite sex? Well, a club, not so much a pub, because girls in the early 60s, they didn't go to a pub on their own. They weren't allowed to buy pints. You could only buy half a pint in a lady's glass. You know, you couldn't go in and say, oh, give us a pint of that in a jug, you know, with a handle. They wouldn't serve you a pint. You had to buy halves. It was frowned upon to see a young woman going to a pub on her own. What was she up to? What's her game? And of course, I was there during all these changes, during this revolution. And it was amazing. There was eye contact first. You didn't just go up to a girl, say at a nightclub, and say, do you want to dance? I think that's what happened in the 50s. Would you like to dance? And she'd say no. That was the end of that. There was eye contact as girls started going into pubs in the 60s. Perhaps a group of girls, group of lads. I do remember the eye contact. You'd look at a girl, or she'd look at you, and there'd be this kind of eye contact. She might smile, just watch her lips furl into a little smile, and then you think, this could be good. I'm in with a chance here. So you might then go and say, would you like a drink? Can I buy you a drink? And she'd say no. No, if she wasn't interested, if you're looking at a girl and she noticed you looking at her and she didn't want to know, she'd turn her face the other way. She'd look at one of her friends and start talking. So you took that as a sign that she's not interested. Anyway, there we are. It was all eye contact at first anyway. Well, I don't know about you. What were you like in the old days when you were a teenager? Ladies and gentlemen listening, what were you like back then when you tried to meet someone of the opposite sex? Did the lads smile? Did you smile at them, ladies? Did you wink at them and sort of give them the come on, or what? Raise rants at protonmail.com. Be good to hear from you. So what's this episode all about? It's really about, or was meant to be about, housewives and families, husbands in the old days, 40s, 50s, 60s, the way things were then and the way they are now. I don't quite know how we got on to stink bombs and school and asking girls out in the 1960s. But things seem to sort of merge into each other, don't they? Digress and go off on tangents, which I quite like, actually. I like that. If you just talk about one thing all the time, it's boring. Let's now digress over to conkers. You know the game of conkers, horse chestnut things, whatever they are. Hello, Brent, over there in America. How are you doing? There's a conkers contest going on, and people have been accused of cheating. Now, I've seen this on the telly here. Apparently, they're accusing some chap of using a metal conker. I suppose it's dressed up to look like a real conker, but it's metal. That's what the allegation is. Anyway, I don't know how true it is. And of course, with that, you can smash all conkers with a metal one. I used to love conkers when we were, at school in the old days. Of course, that's been banned now, hasn't it? Not allowed to do that. That's too much fun. You can't have any fun. But that was really good fun. We used to go conquering at the weekends. Of course, the trouble is everyone knew where the local conker trees were. There was a good one just up by a farm. There was a tree there that not many people knew about. In fact, I'm not sure that anyone knew about it because it was right up a farm track and it was quite a trek to get there. And I remember taking a pillowcase, probably nicked it from my bed. Mum's wondering where the pillowcase has gone. And I went up there on my bike with this pillowcase and I just about filled it with conkers. Excellent. And I was selling them. Would you believe I was selling them at school? I filled my pockets. I forget what I was charging, penny each or something. And I was selling them in the playground at school. I went into school, pockets all bulging, all the pockets all bulging out everywhere. And of course, when I left school, the only thing I had in my pockets was money, which was good. Nice little earner. But it's all been banned now, hasn't it? It's a shame. Anyway, thanks for that, Brett. That was interesting. Thank you, Ian, for your MP3 about getting on a bus full of old people. I'm not going to put that on here. I won't play that to other people, just in case some of them get offended. But I know exactly what you mean. What is annoying, and I can say this, it's not only old people. Who's that talking? That's the radio. What is annoying? You're waiting to go into a venue. This is typical at somewhere like Butlins. You're waiting to go in and you've got to pay, £2.50. We all know it's £2.50. We get our money ready or we've got our payment card ready. And there's someone in front. When it's their turn, they're told it's £2.50. Oh, right, OK. They fumble around in their bag, fumble around with a purse, muck about. Why don't they get it ready? Same with a bus queue. You're in the bus queue. Well, I'm not because I don't use buses. Some elderly person or young person in front of you, they step onto the bus. The chap says how much it is. And they're fumbling about in their pockets. Why not have it ready? You know that you're going to have to pay. Why start fumbling about and holding up the entire queue? I don't know. But that's people for you, I suppose. Bob, nice to hear from you. Thank you for the photos. Architects, dreadful architects. I'll try and get those on today if I can. They're terrible, aren't they? The buildings, absolutely terrible. What were they, stainless steel or something? I'll have another look in a minute. I will try and get those on today. But thank you so much for that. Talking of selling things at school, we've got a lovely golf club. Well, I say a lovely golf club. It's not lovely. I don't play golf. I've no idea what it's like. Could be dreadful. Anyway, huge golf course behind the town, up on the downs. And when I was a kid, I used to go up there on my bike and collect golf balls. You find them in the bushes, in the long grass, all over the place. And I'd take a bag up there. Do you remember a shoe bag? Did you have a shoe bag? It was just a cloth bag with a sort of string pull tie on the top. I think we used them to put plimsolls in to go to school for PE. Not that I used to do PE. I didn't like that physical. What was it? Physical, not entertainment. I don't know what it. PT, physical training. What was PE? Physical, I don't know, education. That was it. I didn't want education. We don't need no education. So I took my shoe bag up there and I'd fill it with golf balls. A lot of them were new, they're in good condition, and I used to sell those at school. In fact, I'd take them down also to the swap shop in town, and he'd swap it for something. You could say, I want some marbles, there's the golf balls, or he'd pay you for them. Not much, I hasten to add, but it was all income, wasn't it? Tax-free. Another change of subject. Drove downtown yesterday with my iPad. Trish popped it into the shop. They knew we were turning up. She paid for it, or tried to pay for it with her card. 3 times it was rejected. Now, they did say you're going to have to wait while we repair it, so I drove off to park somewhere else. While I was parked, the phone rang. It's the bank people, whoever they are. A computer message. Press any key to continue or phone so-and-so number. This is the fraud department. What? Fraud? What's going on? Anyway, then Trisha phoned me while I'm trying to get through to them. And she said, the card's been rejected. I said, I know, yeah, I just doing this message thing. Anyway, forget all that. She paid on a different card. That was that. Back home, when we got home, I phoned the bank people. You go through all the business, don't you? Name, where were you born, how tall are you, what's your foot size, do you wear a hat? Got through all that. And I said, look, it's just that it was rejected. And I want to say it was a genuine transaction. That's all. No more than that. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to put you through to the fraud department. Oh, ages later, listening to music, a chap finally answered. Honestly, you'd think that I was the criminal. I was trying to defraud myself or something. The questions and when did you last make a transaction? When did you last do this? How much was a payment on the 7th of whatever month? And I'm going through all this. Trish has got all the figure work there. We went on and on and on. In the end, I gave the phone to Trish. I said, look, you've got my authority to speak to my wife. I can't deal with this. I just gave the phone to her. And she's explaining that my husband isn't very tolerant. He doesn't like banks. Anyway, she took over. And she was on the phone for ages answering question after question. How much did you pay on so-and-so date? And she's going through all her figure work. And eventually, OK, that's fine. We'll unlock your card. Oh, stone the crows. I wish we'd gone in there with cash. I know it's security and I know that it is good because it could have been anyone using the card, trying to defraud us and things. But the questions, it went on and on. All I had to do, really, I would have thought, is say, yeah, this is me. You now know it's me. So just unlock the card or whatever you have to do. Anyway, that's that done. Wasn't it easy in the old days when you had cash in your pocket or a checkbook? None of this card nonsense and fraud going on and all that. Oh, dear me. You just go into a shop like that, pay cash or pay by cheque. I think in the old days, didn't you have to put your card number on the back of the cheque? Something like that. I remember doing that years, decades, 100 years ago. Of course, people don't use cheques anymore. Do you use cheques where you are? Abroad anywhere? Do you use cheques? I don't think we've got... Actually, we must have a chequebook somewhere. I'm sure we've got one somewhere, but we never use it. I like cash. You know where you are with cash. Lovely blue sky. It's Friday now, by the way. Friday, 9 o'clock in the morning. Beautiful blue sky. Sunshine, not a breath of wind. Yesterday, was it yesterday I woke up 16 degrees or something? 6 o'clock in the morning. Today, 5 degrees. What a change. It really does change this time of year. You never know what to expect. Going to a wedding tomorrow, which will be rather nice. I hope the weather's good for that. It's our niece. Is it niece? I get confused. I don't know who's who. Niece, cousin, grandson, twice removed. Anyway, it's daughter's daughter. Oh, no, it's granddaughter. Oh, Struth. It's granddaughter, if you're listening. You're a granddaughter, aren't you? Not a niece. Something that has always confused me, well, life confuses me, is removed. A cousin once or twice removed. Why are they removed? I have had this explained to me, but I can't quite work out. Do you get a husband removed or a wife? Oh, that's my wife, twice removed. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not worth trying to work out what's going on. If I have a cousin who is twice or 3 times removed, we'll leave it at that. It doesn't matter. It's just a cousin as far as I'm concerned. I shall wear a suit to the wedding. I like to do that. Do you know, in the old days, we'd go out for a meal well, we still do now on the odd occasion. I always wore a jacket and tie, not necessarily a suit, trousers, shirt, tie, blazer, something like that. Always wear a tie because we're going to a restaurant somewhere. And I noticed as the years went by, people started wearing jeans, a T-shirt, open neck shirt, and they just looked scruffy. And I'm the only one in the restaurant in the end. Wherever we went, I was the only one wearing a tie and a shirt and a blazer, trying to look a bit smart. I think people should make a bit of an effort, don't you, when they go out? Do you remember your Sunday best? No, you probably don't. Even I didn't have Sunday best. But in the old days, when I was, a boy in the 50s, I do remember people going off to church in their Sunday best. The ladies would have a dress, a frock, or whatever it was called, and a hat. They'd wear their new hat and a handbag and matching shoes and all this, their Sunday best. They go off to church. These days, people just wander around in jeans and T-shirt. I don't know. I do like to make a bit of an effort if we're going somewhere rather special. We had a phone call from one of the family. Are the men wearing suits to the wedding? And Tricia said, well, Ray is. Well, a blazer and shirt and tie anyway. I would have thought that was just natural. Of course we're wearing a suit or blazer or something. I don't know. Perhaps they were thinking, well, we'll just turn up in jeans and trainers and a T-shirt. with Jimi Hendrix written on the front. If you hear any background noises, it's Trisha downstairs in the kitchen. She's doing a load of food for the wedding. She is fantastically organised. Now, you would think that daughter number one would be organising food because it's her daughter's wedding, our granddaughter's wedding. But no, Trisha was asked because she's so good at it. Everything is organised down to the last thing. Everything is organised. What time we're doing this, we're picking the cake up from there, we're doing this, we're taking that there, we're giving them a lift there. It's all organised, the whole thing, so nothing can go wrong. And I think if it was left to anyone else, with all due respect, we'd all be at the reception. Where's the cake? I thought you were bringing the cake. No, you said you'd bring it. Oh, well, we haven't got a cake, not to worry. I'm doing quite a lot of the driving. I'm normally the taxi, whatever we're up to, I'm normally the taxi driver. So we're picking up someone, then we're picking up someone else, and then we're going up to the venue. I don't know what's happening. I just do as I'm told. Very often we get into the car if there's some organised thing, like the wedding. And I'll say to Trish, right, where to? You got to go there. Right, I drive there. I don't know what's going on. We do that, and then I'll say, where to now? And she'll tell me. It's easier that way than me trying to work it out or trying to remember things. Don't the crows? Don't know what day it is half the time. I know a chap, he was getting married to this lovely lady, and he was somewhat embarrassed to tell her that he'd been married before. Not so much that, because she knew he'd been married before, but how many times. And in the end, he said, just before the wedding, he said, look, I've got to tell you, I've been married 4 times before. 4 times. And he thought that she'd be upset, and oh, goodness me, what sort of husband are you? 4 wives, and I'm number 5. She said, that's all right, that's nothing, 4 times. I've been married 5 times. 5 times. He was husband number 6. Goodness me. Happy days. That was some years ago, and they're all right. They've stayed together, so it took a while to find the right partner. At least they got there in the end. Talking of weddings, do you think it's a waste of money, the amount some people spend? I knew a chap, he got married to his girlfriend. £30,000 the wedding was. This is a few years ago now. £30,000. What on earth did they spend that on? I didn't go to the wedding. I'm not a close friend, more of an acquaintance. What do you spend that amount of money on? And of course some are more than that, aren't they? 30,000? That does seem a ludicrous amount of money just for a few hours at a wedding. I don't think that included the honeymoon. I just don't know what you could spend that on. Mind you, these wedding venues, you don't have to get married in a church or registry office anymore, do you? You can go to where they're licensed or something, any venue, a hotel or whatever it is. But it all costs a fortune, these places. I don't know why people pay that amount of money. I know it's a big special day, once in a lifetime, or 6 in a lifetime, depending on how many husbands or wives you've had. £30,000. Stone the crows. Well, that reminds me, someone emailed me the other day, Jennifer it was. Hello, Jennifer. She said, why do you keep saying stone the crows? I don't know. I don't know why. My boss at work, when I was a radio and TV apprentice, I can't tell you what he kept saying, but every 5 minutes he came out with this. It's a shame I can't tell you what it was, but it's rude. Another one is stone me, isn't it? I don't think that's a particularly good one, stone me. Another chap at work, he was always saying, ye gods. He'd slap his forehead and say, ye gods, if anything ever went wrong in the workshop. We had a bell, because there was a shop, as well as a TV workshop. There was a shop where they did all the sales and stuff. And they would press a button and a bell would ring in the workshop. And it was called the flap bell because people got into a flap. And the flap bell would go and we'd look at each other. Who's going to the shop? Oh, I went last time. No, you didn't. You went before. All right, I'll go to the shop. Then you have to go through to the shop and see a customer. And there was one chap there. He's passed away now, sadly. I met him again a few years back, went round his house. He always reminded me of Batman because he had this white coat on. You know, we all wore these white sort of lab coats in the workshop. And he'd run around the place, arms in the air with the coat sailing behind him. Flat bell, can someone go to the shop? No, what was it? Can someone go to the shoppist department? Flap bell. He was a nutcase, bless him. As I say, he's gone now, but he was a nutcase. I said to him once, you've got lovely teeth. Perfect white teeth. This is when I was first there in my teens. They really were perfect teeth, a perfect row of white teeth. And he took them out and showed me. He said, look, they're not mine, they're false. Oh, dear. He'd had all his teeth out. He was, 23? He'd had all his teeth out in his teens. So, and there was another chap there. He was bald, and he had a egg head, like the science master had at my school, just hair around the side like a professor, ginger hair and a ginger moustache. And he looked really old. And he said to me one day, he got me by the collar, pulled me towards him, and he said, how old do you think I am? I said, I don't know, 38, 40. He really looked that age. he hit me. Not hard, but he hit me, and I fell back over these tellies. And he said, try again. I said, I don't know, 20-something. He was 23. Poor chap, 23 years old, and he looked at least 40, if not older. He was a funny chap. He went and joined the police in the end. I don't know why. He went and joined the police force. He got fed up with mending tellies, I expect. There were some characters. There was old Bill, his name. Well, Bill, he was in his 60s. And don't forget, I'm sort of 16, 17. And he used to repair valve radios. The 1940s, 1950s valve radios, tube radios. And one day he was a bit quiet, and the boss said to him, Bill, could you do a couple of transistor radios just to help Colin out? And he took a transistor radio off the shelf, sat at his bench. Now, he knew nothing about transistors. He knew nothing about it. He was brought up in the 30s and 40s on the valve gear. Anyway, he's fiddling about. He took the back off. He's fiddling about with his transistor radio. And in the end, he picked it up, held it above his head and threw it onto the floor. Of course, it smashed into bits. He was swearing, transistor radios, and he walked off and went home. He did, he went home. Because the radio was smashed to bits, so we had to give the customer a new radio, which was a bit expensive, but there we are. Poor old Bill, he retired shortly after that. I think he'd had enough. It was a very busy radio and TV workshop, a family-run business, but a lot of staff, a lot of repair work going on. And there were some real characters. I won't go through them all, but there were some real characters there. Happy days, Jennifer, as I keep saying. Stone the crows. Oh yes, nearly forgot. People asking about Gary the tortoise. No, he's still stomping around the garden, not hibernating yet. And hello to the other tortoises. I've been told other people have tortoises. There's Lexi, which is a good name for a tortoise. Lexi. That's not bad, is it? Spineless. I don't know why you'd call a tortoise spineless. Toby was another one. Hello, Toby. And what else was it? Oh, and Peter. Peter the tortoise. Well, ours is Gary, so why not? Peter the tortoise. Toby, I think, doesn't hibernate because where he is, it's very warm. The others do hibernate. Tortoises, they're real characters. Have a look on YouTube. Just type in, I don't know, tortoise or something. And the things they do, I was watching one the other day. This tortoise wanted to go where the cat was. The cat was in a basket, trying to have a rest, trying to have a sleep. And the tortoise wanted to join the cat. So he kept trying to push the cat to one side to make room for him so he could have a rest as well. The cat didn't like it. There's arguments going on. The tortoise is going mad. And there was another one where a tortoise was annoying a dog. And the dog kept putting the tortoise's head in its mouth as if to bite it. He didn't bite it, but I think he was just trying to frighten the thing and say, look, I'll tell you who's boss. I'm boss. My mouth is bigger than your whole body, so be careful. But the tortoise kept having a go at him. It kept going up to him and kicking him and trying to bite him. Amazing. They really are characters, tortoises. They're good fun to watch. Just going back to the weddings, I know you're interested. Look at that blue sky. Beautiful. Flag isn't moving, blue sky, no wind, lovely. There are no drinks at the reception, no alcohol. Now you might think that's odd. Why is there no alcohol at the reception? It's about, 20 miles away from here. So most of us have to drive. So what they've done, they've set up an evening thing here in town. So we're all going to drive back from the reception. And then I think there's a disco and all this dreadful... I don't like that, do you? Discos at weddings, receptions and stuff. Anyway, I'm not going. I got out of it because Trisha's mum, she said, I don't know that I'd be any good at the evening thing, there's a room they've hired at the back of a pub or somewhere. She said, I don't know that I'd be any good. I'd be tired after a long day at the wedding. I said, oh, don't worry, I'll take you home. Oh, would you? Trisha said to me, that's an excuse, so you don't have to go to the pub. Everyone knew I wouldn't go anywhere. I don't like it. I don't like discos in pubs and loud noise and people drinking too much. So that's quite handy. We're getting back here about 6, I think. Take mother-in-law home, then they're all going to clear off down the pub till goodness knows what time. So I'm going to have a nice evening. I'll probably have a couple of beers, a nice evening playing amateur radio. Right, I'm going to end it here. I know it's only 3/4 of an hour. Trish is cooking down there. I've got things to do. I've got a list of jobs I've been given. This list, here it is in front of me. Empty the dustbin, empty the recycle bin, put something in the car. I can't read that. Put something in the car. I better find out what that is in case it's something important. No, it wouldn't be important. I don't get important jobs. You had one job. What was it? One job, isn't it? Yes. So anything on the list here that isn't done is not that important. I mean, putting the dustbin out doesn't matter. It won't affect the marriage. Well, not the people getting married anyway. Might affect my marriage if I don't do the jobs properly. Okay, I shall leave you in peace. Thank you as always for listening. I've enjoyed your company immensely. Love talking to you all, as you know. I shall see you on Wednesday with a midweek message. I shall tell you about the wedding. I won't bore you, don't worry. Be good. If you're bad, don't get caught. Take care, look after yourselves. Bye-bye for now.